Okay, can you see me?
Yeah, I hear and I see you. It's a great pleasure.
We all got older.
We are going older, yes, very older. And we are living a very sad days because we lost such a good friend during those terrible coronavirus day. Germano went away. I think that we are both so sad.
Oh boy. Have you talked to Tom Krenz?
No, didn't. Did you?
Yeah, he's crying. You know, Germano was working with him on a new museum in Saudi.
Yeah.
Which they asked me to do with them. But I don't want to go to Saudi. I can't go. I went a few times and it was very discouraging.
Yeah.
They're difficult people.
Difficult people. But starting this conversation, it came to me the beautiful night when you did with Germano the course of the knife here in Venice, which was so fun, such a fun. Do you remember it?
Yeah, of course. And he was Basta Carambola.
Yeah, 1985. 1985. It's a lot of time passed. Okay. Yeah. How are you? Good?
Yeah, things are busy. We're working. It's difficult to work from home with 170 people online. And I have to at least interact with, 10 or 12 people regularly. And we're having a hard time.
Is the office?
My techniques of working with the models and changing the models and playing with them as I go, working back and forth, makes it difficult because I can't have a model maker standing there with me.
Yeah, and well, you are missing a very important part of your way.
Yeah, yeah. I have to go back to where I started, where I used to work by myself with the drawing, and then I'd make the model myself, and then. But the projects are bigger, so it's harder to do that.
Is the office completely closed, Frank?
Yes.
Completely shut down, locked down.
We're in my office right now, though.
Oh, yeah. So you can use it.
Yeah.
Okay. And which is your perception of what we are going through in the next months and years? What do you think?
Pardon me, I just had to. I didn't eat lunch yet. Well, we have a crazy guy running the country here, so it's very different. I think we're going to learn to work through the computers and more. It's going to be less personal for a while until we learn how to do it. Probably, I don't know if I'm going to be able to adjust at my age. I mean, I can only do it through a talented group of computer people working with me. If I have to do it, if I'm alone and have to do it, it's a problem for me. I go back to sketching and hand drawings and crumpling paper. And so it's new. It's new. It's a new paradigm, new way of working. I don't know where it's going to go. It's obvious that, you know, I have trouble with my cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
So my kids, all the kids here know how to do that. And so I'm constantly saying, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I get in trouble with the cell phone. I turn it off when I want to turn it on. You know what I mean? It's complicated. So I think we're right in the middle of it and trying to figure it out. The new projects that we're starting, I think, will be easier because we'll start from scratch with this new way of working. What's happened now is I'm caught with the project has been designed by my normal process,
Mm-hmm.
people around me working, and it's stopped in the middle. It's like a movie that just stopped in the middle. And now you have this image, and you know where you're going with it. You know the emotions that are coming with it, the feelings that, and the changes that are coming just normally from the client, from engineers, from costs, from all of the issues that you work on. And it's seamless when you're working together. When you have to I just think we're going to have to get used to it and figure out and start. When we start the project, it'll be on a different footing, a different way, a different.
But one of the most typical characteristic of your work was to work directly with your hands on the models and on the shapes that you were figuring out. I am wondering if this could be still something that you can. This was one of the peculiar.
Yeah, no, but Francesco, that's when the buildings were much smaller. Now you have towers and things. It's harder, you know. I think it's just learning the new way. You caught me on a bad day today because of the Germano thing and everything. I'm not feeling. I'm feeling like I want to join Germano in heaven and have this discussion.
Come on. There's not even to think about that.
Right. So I'm caught in the middle on this thing, and the project. We're doing a hotel in Santa Monica, and we had an idea for it, but it wasn't formed yet. So we're trying to figure out how to make the models, and I work back and forth. Like I can watch them with this screen. I can watch them working. So I think that's one way, is to have the projection in the same room and be talking to each other like this with my young people working with me. And so I can say, hey, stop that. That's not, or move that over here, or change that, and I can sketch, and they can see it on the iPad, the sketch. I mean, it's starting to work, but not with every project yet.
Yeah, it will be very different in the future anyway.
Yeah, I think it's a different way, and we'll find it. But in the middle of all this angst and anxiety, and you know, my wife was what do you call it? She was tested. She had the COVID.
Oh yeah.
So a few weeks ago, it's just four or 5 weeks ago. So that threw me into a crazy place. But now she's fine. She came through it and tested negative. But
Okay.
then I was on the phone every day with Paris and Argento,
Yeah.
and I think there's a lot of anxiety around it that all of us are feeling right in this period. When it calms down, I think we'll get back to a way of working.
Well, Frank, related to this question, first of all, give a great hug to Berta, please, from me. And number two,
what did you say?
Great hug to Berta.
I didn't hear that word.
Okay.
Say it again. Say what you just said.
Give a great hug to your wife, Berta.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Number two, this anxiety, which produces something that I perceive in discussing and talking with all my friends, is related
the anxiety. You mean.
Anxiety that we are living in a kind of time where we are constricted in the present. There is only the present, there is no future. For me, for instance, it's impossible in this moment to write anything because it seems that I have only the present, only this moment, and I stay fixed with my feet in the present.
Yes.
The absence of a future, in other terms, is something that you can perceive and something which could change our perception of the time we have in front of us.
Right. But Francesco, that was always the case. Everything is changing. The world that before COVID, before this virus, the world was fast tracking everything. There was, our work with Dassault and the computers created a whole different way for us to work that I'm used to now. I'm used to it, but it requires it has its own cadence, and I've learned to work with it. I think everybody's going to come at this in a different way, but we have the tools. The tools are extraordinary. They're complicated. They're extraordinary. They're very efficient if we use them right, and it allows us to study. For instance, on a curtain wall studies, you can do so many more studies with the glass, the metal, you can do them online. You can work. I can work with Permastelisa, and we've learned to play with each other, and so we can do tests of design ideas very quickly, almost in hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so the cost control and the construction control and all of that is incredible, and so we're able to quickly arrive at solutions that are within budgets, that are so we don't waste a lot of time. We can test many ideas. There's always new technology in glass. There's new metal. There's new issues of climate, of energy savings and stuff. And we do all of that just almost simultaneously while we're working on because of the technology we have at our feet. The personal thing, you don't want to lose that personal thing. The sketching, that when you draw hand drawings and you make those drawings are, I think when you the way I do it anyway, they express my feelings about the project as well as relate to kind of the program and the pragmatics. So as I draw, if you look at my first drawing for Louis Vuitton, it's just strokes, but that was the energy that I was able to maintain all the way through the work into the final project. It still has that feeling. So it's not the drawings are an expression of feelings, and if they express the feelings and you capture that into the, once you see it, you then hang on to it as you work on the building, so you don't lose that energy. And it's hard to explain it, but it is, for me anyway, it's been very important.
It's very understandable that your drawings are expressing exactly this strength and this feeling which should be transferred in some way. And but I think that your idea of the technology which resolve everything simultaneously doesn't resolve the problem that the feeling of the building is related.
No. Yeah. No, the technology, that's where you have to be. That's where I have to continue to work on the project. I can't just hand it to somebody.
Yeah.
In some offices, they do the sketch and they do a model and then it hand it off. I think the feeling part of it goes all the way to the end, to even the last details of slight adjustments to color or to.
Yeah, looking at your work, I mean, it's true that you use the very advanced computer system like CATIA, the Dassault, and so on and so on. But your work is instead extremely rooted in a kind of artisan work, I would say.
Is that kind of what?
Artisan, like
yeah, right. Hand work, yes.
Yeah, handwork, because I mean, I saw you building your models. I know how you work on the models,
yeah.
And the way in which you transfer your drawings and sketches first in the models and afterwards. It's just
okay. So
finalizing something.
When you go to a curtain wall of a 50, 60-story building, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you, so it's the texture of the materials. Mm-hmm. It's the detailing of the materials. That, like in Bilbao, I did full-scale mock-ups of the walls, of parts of the walls, where we did put the material on the mock-up and studied how the layering and the connections and all that were made. It requires constant surveillance on it while it's in construction, because it's very easy for the construction process to cleanse the spirit out of it. So you have to be kind of constantly but we do that by making full-scale mock-ups of the curtain walls, even 2 stories high sometimes. Mm-hmm. I think other people must do the same, but where you work out the details, you study the materials in the different light. You know, like the latest research thing I did, project in Arles with Maya Hoffman.
Can you repeat, Frank? I didn't get it. Which project is? Which is the project you are talking about?
It's a project in Arles, in France, Arles.
Yeah.
You have not seen it.
Yeah, I saw some pictures in Arles. Are you speaking?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
American accent. We have some problems here in Europe.
Okay, so since you met me way back, I've always been interested in how the light, how materials of a building capture the light, and I've always felt that it's kind of like a painting. It's painterly if you think about it. So in the buildings, like in Bilbao, I used the titanium because the titanium captured the light when there was a lot of rainy weather. The titanium had a glow to it that was very warm and friendly. And so by miracle, we were able to use titanium, and it worked very nicely. What I was trying to do in Arles was to understand how to be more precise. How do you really paint with it more precisely? So I decided to make blocks of metal. They were just made little metal panels made into blocks. We found a company that could distort the surface of the metal, so it was not, when you just looked at the piece of metal, it looked almost flat, but when the light hit it, it had a distortion to it that had brought feeling to the piece of metal. Mm-hmm. And we made the blocks out of stainless steel. We studied the stainless steel. We made blocks. I don't know. And when we put them on the building, because they were placed like bricks, you could move them. So they didn't have to be all parallel or perpendicular. One could be this way, and then the next one could be slightly and move. So what happened is the light captured the individual blocks, and because they were slightly askew, not in the same plane, they had a different color. So if you look at Arles, when you look at it, it's very different colors all over the facade. It's like a
yes, I saw the pictures. Yes.
Yeah, so that was an experiment, and it really came with an exciting solution, and we discovered new things in the materials so that you could change the surface of a material without it looking like it's been changed. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how the guy does it. It's a secret process. He won't tell us. But and so now we're doing a building in Taiwan I want to eliminate the blocks again. I want to go back to the single surfaces. Mm-hmm. And to go back to the single surfaces, then you have to crinkle them in some way. It can't be just a flat wall.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to do that.
Can you go a
Right.
little bit back, Frank, because I don't see your hands. I don't see your hands. You should go
No.
back. Okay. No?
Go back.
Yeah.
Better?
No.
Better?
Up. Up. Okay.
So there's little cracks from this that you don't see when you're up from the distance. You don't see it, but and so then instead of having the blocks, the color goes into the shapes. See what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's now more like a watercolor. So that's what I'm playing with. That's the idea. So now, if you take that, you go to a tower, a high-rise tower that's 80, 90 stories. We're working on some very high ones.
Oh, yeah?
How do you take that idea into the building? So again, you're back to the panels, because a curtain wall has windows, and so you have the frames if you do punched openings.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can distort the frame slightly so it captures the light in a different way.
Yeah.
That gives from the distance, gives a very different texture to a tower than if it's done all the same. Mm-hmm. Right? See what I mean?
I understand. So
that's like this, and we're just experimenting it with it now. I haven't done it yet, so we're just doing it. But and we'll see. I in the maquettes it works. It really works. So we'll pray that it does. So anyway, all of those processes that I'm talking about can be done working within the constraints of the health issues and issues with the COVID, or that separate people into different. And it might end up that we don't need big offices of people. We can work online like that. I suspect in time that's what's going to be anyway. Mm-hmm. So we might as well learn to do it. And so that's what we're trying to do right now here.
Okay.
But it is frustrating. Because it doesn't come easy.
No. But Frank, and what do you perceive about America? Because everybody of us, we are anguished about what we learn about America and the way in which your country is reacting to this pandemic.
Well, this is being generated by our leadership, which is, I mean, it's kind of mad. It's unprecedented. I don't know, even in with Maduro in Venezuela, is it that crazy? I don't know. You know, it's I think people are just learning to pretend it doesn't exist and doing our work without focusing on this guy, because
on the president, you mean?
Yeah, he's just yesterday he was totally off the rails. So it's hard to know when he's going to be. I know him personally. I never worked. I didn't want to work with him ever, but he's complicated.
Yeah. Okay, it's complicated.
Complicated, and we don't. Most of us don't know what to do about it, because there is a percentage of the population that we're learning. We kind of knew it, that they were wanted to have guns and shoot everybody, and were had preferences over people's color of skin, whether they, and diminished people with color and so on. I mean, we've been through that for generations, but it seemed like we were getting more open about it. So much intermarriage, so much, all of our families are racially mixed more than they've ever been. And everything's working fine. It's not, but there are these residual hatreds, and we've seen it before. I remember 1930s listening to the German Reich talking over the radio, and I remember the fear I had then, and I now listen to feelings that resurrect that fear, resurrect that. So hopefully it's just a passing thing. But America's certainly lost a lot of its power and prestige through these last 3 years. The lack of respect now is, you feel it now. When you go to Europe, when you go places, you feel it. You feel it. It's a different.
But when you come to Europe, you'll have a lot of respect. Believe me, I do hope to see you pretty soon.
Yes.
I do hope.
Well, I love going to Berlin. Have you been to the concert hall we did, the little one?
Yeah, sure. It was fantastic, and I like it a lot. I like it a lot. I would like to go for a concert, because I didn't listen to a concert there.
Oh, I'll bring you with Daniel. It's just great. Daniel, yeah, he's fantastic.
I know him,
I got into that. You know how I got into that? Because I didn't know Daniel, but I was interested in Daniel and Edward Said did.
How did you connect with Daniel?
So I'm telling you, I'm very connected to Zubin Mehta and many of the musicians that Daniel grew up with, like Pinky Zuckerman and etc. I've known all of those people for years. I just never met Daniel. And when a few years ago, when the Palestinian-Israeli thing started to look kind of stupid, I was very upset with Israel, and I signed a petition against the settlements. Mm-hmm. And Daniel signed that too. And so I started to look into what he was doing with Edward Said, and they were bringing they created the orchestra, the Divan, which had Israelis, Palestinians, Syrians, everybody playing together. And since I believed that we talked to each other through the arts, I was very fascinated. I got involved. During that period, I was giving every year, every second year, I did a studio at Yale, graduate studio, where I always brought the topic of classical music. So I always did a concert hall. Mm-hmm. I gave the kids a concert hall. And part of the program is you travel with this 10 students to wherever to meet people and visit people related to the topic. The year I became interested in Daniel, I decided to give the program to design a concert hall for the Divan Orchestra. Mm-hmm. That was the project for the kids. and I didn't know where they wanted it. So I have a close friend who is very close to Daniel. I said, could you call Daniel and ask him if he had it's a student project, but if he were going to build a divan center, where would he do it? He said Istanbul at the time, and the reason because the visas for the various young kids to play was very easy for them to travel through Istanbul. They could easily get together. And so we then met Daniel to talk about it. He gave a talk at to the students. I couldn't be at the talk, but when I came back to meet with the students there, they were so excited about working on this. Daniel just unleashed this feeling about building it. And so anyway, we started working on it. I got to know Daniel. I went to Berlin. I saw what he was doing with the divan. And he was, they were under construction for the, oh my God, I forget names, forget words.
Which
In the buildings off of
in the back of the
Unter Linden, where the Staatsopera, it was the Staatsopera's warehouse.
Yeah.
And they were building in there, and the architect was there, and they were working, and Daniel introduced me, and I met the architect. He was a very nice man. And we then went to have a coffee, and the architect said, Mr. Gehry, would you do me the honor of designing the concert hall?
Oh, good.
I said, it's a great honor, but I'm not used to taking other people's work from them. I don't do that. I would feel awkward coming in, and then he and Daniel started yelling at me, and pretty soon I said, all right. So I said, okay, I'll do it on one condition, that you don't pay me. I want to do this as a gift, not as a.
But did you pay your student in Yale or not?
The students aren't paid, no. They didn't work on it. I did that building through the office, and I paid my people. Okay. I didn't get paid from it was my gift to the orchestra.
Great. We should go to this gift together, Frank.
Yeah.
We know when.
I don't know, as soon as we can. My first trip is going to be to Berlin. I talk to Daniel regularly.
Yeah.
I listen to his music all the time. Berlin is amazing. You know, did you know Horst Bredekamp?
Yes.
You know Horst.
Sure.
Irving Levin and Horst and I were good friends. So we traveled together. Yeah. And we talked a lot. And I was always interested in Romanesque architecture, Autun, Vézelay, all of that stuff. When I lived in France that year in 1960, I became very involved with studying Romanesque architecture. So I visited all the buildings and stuff. And Horst Bredekamp is a medievalist. So Irving Levin and his wife, Marilyn, and Horst and Berta and me traveled through the Romanesque church country together. And so it's kind of and they did a book. I should send it to you. It's called The Good Ship Lollipop. Have you seen that? I'm going to send it to you.
Okay.
It's hilarious. Irving, Jim Ackerman, do you know Jim?
Yes.
Who died in the middle of this, and Irving died. So the book came out just after Jim and Irving died, but Horst and I were part of it. So I'll send it to you.
I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, Frank. Thank you so much.
So what are you going to do with all this? Are you going to write it, or is this the movie?
No, we are taping it.
Oh my God.
No, but you are in such a good shape. That is perfect.
Okay, so where are you going to play this?
In Casabella. In Casabella, you know, the modern magazines as they are not only printed, but they are on air, and so.
Do you remember taking me to the steps? What are the steps to the city hall, where Michelangelo did the horse in the middle?
Well, in Rome, do you mean?
In Roma.
In Roma, yes, in Campidoglio.
The city hall looks out onto the forum.
Yeah, Campidoglio. We went to
the Campidoglio.
Campidoglio. We went on the Campidoglio together. It's true.
Right, and then you took me to the mayor's office, and I looked out over the forum. Right.
Yeah. These
From
little
there,
windows.
From the mayor's office, little window, and then you got me a Michelangelo or Leonardo's drawing of the.
Yeah. No, Frank, you are not correct.
I'm not.
No,
we
you
went
are correct about Rome, because we went to the little window.
Yeah.
Overlooking the forum.
And the other one is in Venice, I know.
In Venice, and you started
Right.
to cry. When you had the Michelangelo drawings, the Leonardo drawings on your hands, you started to cry.
I know. I never forgot that. You just touched me so much. It's just been one of the most important things ever happened in my life. Thank you.
Okay. Frank.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a date.
Okay.
We have a double date. We go to see Barenboim in Berlin.
Yes.
We listen Barenboim in Berlin, and afterwards you should come back for the Leonardo's drawing in Venice.
Yeah. There's one other thing. Do you remember you had a dinner with, and Leon Krier came in Venice?
Yeah.
You remember that evening?
Yeah, I know.
That was quite an evening.
Quite an evening. Okay. Oh my God.
That was interesting because Leon Krier he was always very critical of me, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
At that time, so I was coming to your apartment that night, and we were coming down the alley, and I heard this voice behind me.
Sure.
And I didn't know who it was. It was Leon, but I didn't know. And he said, "You've read Camillo Sitta."
Sitta.
He said,
Sitta.
"You've read Camillo Sitta?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, I didn't know that." And so because of that, I was okay. Until that point, he thought I had never been exposed to Camillo Sitta.
Okay. Ciao, Frank.
So, okay.
Ciao,
that was fun. Let's do it again.
Yes. Let's talk in the next day. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.